Swear words in so we wake up sometime. So I asked you this morning, what would you start a revolution about?
Yes. Truth and belief.
Creative death. Productive procrastination.
Responsibility.
Making school math.
Computer science.
Talk.
Doing things right.
Thanks, David. Name checked. Great clicker. I'd start a revolution about this clicker to start with. So what would you start a revolution about? I think people are talking about revolutions all over the place. The banks, the government, injustice, the police, health, energy, mobility, music, dementia, society, democracy, clickers from Argus, food, farming, architecture, manufacturing, consumerism, design. Okay, I'm going to work with this. That was leading up without the crap clicker to the design. Ooh. So, why is revolutionary change needed? Why do we need to bring about revolutions? For me, we're going to be fucked pretty soon. Like, there's so much going on that's wrong in the world across all of those different things that I've mentioned that we need to be prepared for when that's going to happen, and it is happening. So my whole work in Revolutions for me is about tooling up for radical change and about having people ready to make those steps to start changing the world. So does anyone know Gene Sharp, who wrote about nonviolent revolutions? So he wrote this like amazing document which he won a Nobel Prize for, which is about methods of starting a non-violent revolution, from sit-ins to different new forms of protest, to not paying things on time, to slowing processes down. But I'd like to propose today that I'm going to hack his methods of non-violent revolution and propose 199 and one new one to add to it. And I think it's design, and design in a way that we don't normally tend to think about it. So moving design away from products to more ways of hacking society, to tooling up people to make change. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. This is me, if you can see the resemblance. I've slightly got some more lines on my face now. Age 7, for those of you who have kids or work closely with children, or kids up to about the age of about 12, 13, we're constantly questioning the world and saying, why is that like that? What if we could do this better? And I guess my tools or my weapons, really, in a revolution at age 7 was Lego. So I was constantly playing, trying to reshape the way that the world looked at age 7. But unfortunately, and for those of you who work in education, I feel that this seems to get pulled out of us at age about 12, where we start saying, you know that creative thing and that kind of like art subject? You're not going to get a job from that, so let's focus on something else. And I really want to try and like batter against that kind of process where we're actually really, I think, removing creativity from people. But my next weapon was gin and tonic, and I'm very lucky, age 14, to have found it. Quite literally, actually, in the shed of my stepdad's garden. But when I was 14, my product design teacher kept creativity within me, and I thank him for every single place that I am today. He showed me sketches from Lakeland Plastics, and I got really excited about life at that point, because he showed me that somebody had designed and solved a problem about getting a lime to be inside an ice cube so you could make the perfect gin and tonic, and I was like, fuck. I want to do that too. I want to solve problems that matter in society. I want to make great gin and tonics in life. So fast forward a few years after some travelling, I went and studied product design at the Glasgow School of Art, which is just this amazing course which you moan about the whole time you're there, and then in hindsight you actually go, that was quite good. What they taught me at GSA and in that course was how to think about design and how to affect change with my hands as a maker. This, for those of you wondering, is one of the first projects I ever did, age 19. It is a coat hanger. I know it looks like a lethal torture device, but what I was asked to do was to redesign and rethink the humble coat hanger. And the way in which I did that was go out, and I actually got the first person to be banned from Laura Ashley in the UK for taking photographs of women, sort of getting changed, but not quite getting changed. But what I was looking for was getting out of my comfort zone as a researcher, trying to establish or find a problem that needed to be solved with coat hangers. This will all link together, by the way. And then I moved into a prototyping phase, and then a phase of delivering. So what I learned was a design process was actually the methodology of thinking like a designer, which is to look out the way, look around you, establish a problem or opportunity that you can take forward, fail fast by prototyping your concept, so you make hundreds of coat hangers, and then deliver your final proposition. So I went a little bit left field before going back into design, but I was really sold on these kind of principles and values that design was about for me that I had learned. So I hadn't just learned to make coat hangers and lampshades and this kind of stuff. What I'd learned was how to think about empathy, how to think about putting people first, how to think about prototyping, how design for me was about telling the narrative of tomorrow but making it tangible and physical in the now. And I got really excited about that proposition. So I spent 6 months in Prague, and I basically drank lots of beer and had some very interesting tobacco, and I saw this magazine actually when I was there, and it said a new designer manifesto, stop designing chairs. And I started to connect with this idea that I didn't just want to be a designer that created more stuff in the world, I wanted to be a designer that could change the world in any small or big form in which that might be. So I accidentally ended up in the public sector before I went back into design. Through some really interesting projects with Skills Development Scotland, they ended up funding my master's to look at how you embed design and the processes and values that I've listed into the public sector, into the process of taking policy from Scottish Government and how that goes through government and becomes the products and services that you and I use every single day, from the way the ambulance picks you up, to the way that you go visit a GP, to the way you develop your CV as a young person. How does that actually happen, and what happens there? So I spent like a whole year doing that, and it was like 350 pages, but I'll boil it down into one formula. Public sector equaled, at that point, no design. It didn't really exist, it wasn't the environment for it. So I realised actually from the inside of getting annoyed at the no blue tack rule that the place just wasn't for me. It wasn't like to stick anything up on the wall. So I established Snook with Lauren Curry in 2009, and basically we wanted to find a way in which we could bring design back to government and back into changing the world. We set out on this mission, which is to design beautiful experiences that work for people. We're hearing so many stories about services that made people feel inferior to the system, that made them feel like shit, that didn't work for them, that caused death, which caused harm. And I wanted to find a way in which we could try and improve those. And this mattered to me because when I worked inside public services, I realised that we actually didn't, as a top, it was a very top-down approach, and it was sort of hierarchical in a very traditional sense. And essentially wanted to try and invert the pyramid so we could get more people involved in co-designing and co-developing services with government and public institutions. But I've got a really strong principle about that, is not to be the expert, it's to facilitate other people's knowledge and imagination to co-design with their customers, their citizens, and build the capacity inside their organisations to do it themselves. Because there's only 13 of Snook and time is a limited quantity, so we try and scale up other organisations to make better services. So the first one, and Ewan is here today, who helped fund this, which is great, thank you very much, Ewan. Our first challenge that we took on when we said, right, let's try and change the world, was possibly one of the biggest challenges you could take on, the police. And I wanted to find a way to get feedback online in an open space so that we could hold police services to account. So we created My Police, and genuinely at the time in 2009, I think it was quite revolutionary because they thought having a Twitter account was worse than having a gun. So it really was quite intense to try and shift their mindset and create a product that actually helped facilitate that change. And it ended up being quite successful for us. And in the short tenure that we've been working together with Snook in the last 6 years, we've worked across so many different sectors, from co-designing care services with agencies like Cargom, to the sexy side of service design, which is basically hanging out with loads of bins and asking people about their rubbish and being very creepy with cameras again. I'm allowed to legally stop people, by the way, I do get them to sign off. To open it up with Design in Action and No Sugar Shop, which was training people about the damage that sugar can have in your body by using things like the Gary Barlow scale, like where do you fit in terms of Gary Barlow's weight. But trying to design methods in which you can engage with people and communicate with them. To actually working on education and looking at redesigning the learner journey with young people on behalf of the Scottish Government. So all these projects I'm immensely passionate. For those of you who know me and seen me speak before, I'm so proud of these, but I'm actually not going to talk anymore about Snoop today. I want to talk about what my next part of my personal mission is. Has anyone read the Open Design Manifesto? Great, because I'm going to tell you about it. So open design for me is just symbolic of where I think design should be going now. As designers, we should be opening up platforms to facilitate other people's imagination and giving them the design tools to channel their imagination into what they want to see in the world. I'm a fan of Ivan Illich, and he talks about the fact that as society has progressed, especially across the 1960s and 70s, we have removed know-how from citizens and almost made us so small that it's really hard for us to actually have our own opportunity to craft society, and we become helpless and we become useless as citizens because we think it's the system that is stopping us from making change happen. And I'm with Illich on this one, with his 1970s manifesto, which is still very relevant today, is to tool up people. And I think tooling up with design skills is a way in which to do it. So I'm going to show you a quick video, and I'm going to talk about movements as part of this revolution talk, and talk about ways in which you can inspire others to have their creativity to change the world.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. See, it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut, and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals.
I am that lone nut, and I have been that person when I was in Prague. So I want to kind of reflect on that and how being a lone nut, I've accidentally started a bit of a global movement around cycling around the world. In 2013, I met up with a friend of mine, Joanna Holton, who works at Edinburgh University, and we wanted to do something about cycling that was a little bit different from the usual kind of suspects in the sector. And we're not from the cycling kind of sphere of the Sustrans or the Cycling Scotland or anyone. We're just 2 people that kind of give a shit about making cycling easier for everybody in the world. So what I wanted to do was try and find a way in which to basically articulate what barriers are to cycling and look across the piece rather than just focus on infrastructure as a problem, which is quite systemic, and potholes and things like this, and actually try and open up and get people to think about the total experience of cycling. So just the same way that like Snoop would look at end-to-end service design for customers, is to think about, well, what's the end-to-end experience of being on a bike? So we're looking at everything around the journey. So we were the lone nuts. We put up a Kickstarter, and I think in some respects, in hindsight now actually, I think you have to be brave sometimes to put these ideas out in the world because they can always fail and go really bad, and this one was a real slow burner for anyone that's done a Kickstarter campaign. But we made it and we got a bit of funding in for it. So I'm going to run through this almost as if this is like a kind of like army takeover as Cycle Hack. So I'm introducing to you your leaders. So it was myself, Joanna Holton and Matt Lowell, and we tried to find a group of people that had a different kind of skill set and perspective on trying to make change in the world. And these are our weapons. Our weapon is design. We create design studios that are inviting for everybody, that invite everyone from any different background, whether you're a cyclist or not, to come together. We use really simple tools like washing lines. Yes, we're innovating with washing lines, but trying to find ways in which to make a space accessible for everybody to have a dialogue around their knowledge and what they think the barriers are to cycling. Because often when you go to a kind of meeting about any form of citizen issue with a municipality, it's us and them. And this is everyone. So you're designing a space for everyone to come together and feel comfortable. And our other weapon is a framework. It's just a little bit of vision and guidance on how you might actually start breaking down new ideas to transform cycling. So instead of just saying, we need to change the infrastructure, it's like, well, but what are we going to change about that? Is it a new product, a new service, a new campaign? Are we going to hack policy? What does that actually look like? So from our lone nuts to our first followers, we were really lucky to have a bit of funding from Open Glasgow last year. And actually our funder dared us to get it to run in one other country because that would look really good for him. So we were like, yeah, okay, we'll try and do it. And we actually managed to find 2 people in Beirut and Melbourne. They were the ones that went up and danced like this from Beirut and Melbourne. And they hacked with us. And it was a really beautiful event that we ran. We then had our army of cycle hackers that showed up. And in Glasgow, we had 100 people show up on the first night, which was just insane, really. And I think that's the way in which we designed it to be a kind of different, aesthetically different event to the traditional cycling consultations. So these are some of the inventions that we came up with. Beirut came up with new local plan designs and maps. These guys came up with a physical hack, which would connect to your iPhone and tell you which way to turn on the front of your bike. They built this in under 48 hours, which is really, really impressive. This was an open source form of signage that you could print off and then write on and stick up anywhere, so you could create your own routes to help people wayfind. We had people create Veloscape, which was a digital platform to show how much councils are spending in different areas and money they're spending in contrast to the roads, and then which councillor you can complain about it in one click button. And we had people really go out and do this form of urban prototyping, which is like totally just a wanky term for putting stuff out in the street, but like it was really awesome to see people actually affecting their environment, so, like right there and then, and not having to go to a consultation and wait and then see what somebody else said. They just went out and did it. And we had one rule, is that if you think it's illegal, it probably is. I get them to sign off on that, I don't have any liability. So our radar basically is we built an open source cycle hack catalogue. And that basically means that people will sign off their ideas, if they don't think they're too valuable, into a Creative Commons license, and it means they can be shared across the globe in this catalogue. So India can learn from Beirut, Melbourne can learn from Glasgow, San Francisco could learn from Vancouver. So you've got this kind of shared perspective from different contexts. So last weekend, so that was that, and I was like, oh, that was cool, that was nice, let's run it again, maybe just in Glasgow. So, oh my God. We had over 65 cities sign up to run a cycle hack this year, and we managed to pull 25 of them over the line. And I think if there's one thing I feel actually immensely proud of, is that we only had £5,000 to run this whole thing, and I've put a lot of my own sweat, blood and tears as a Joe and Matt and Snook's team resource into this. But when you don't have any money, you get inventive and you get innovative, and I think for me that's really exciting about this. So say hello to all our cycle hack cities. And what we did was we gave away, just like the lone nut, he said, here you go, here's how to dance, but you do it yourself. So we gave them a framework in which they could design it for their own context, design their own brand, design the way it looks, design the event, as long as they stuck to a couple of different markers. So we lead with the vision, we open with arms, and then we let them do what they want. And movements are unsexy. I just wanted to show the behind the scenes. This was my job. I was manning the spreadsheet. But we're helping hand, and we support people, and we try to get them through this idea of moving through a movement. And I'm really excited, for those of you who knows Ideal, we beat Ideal with a side project. Yeah. But no, I'm huge respect for them, and they have like amazing work, but we won a Core 77 Design Award for social impact a few weeks ago for this project. And I feel immensely proud of that, because we actually dedicated it on our platform to all the hosts, because we're nothing without the followers and the people that make this happen. So I think a big lesson for me is about respecting and valuing the community that is around you. So this is our army of people that I want to introduce you to. This is Nuremberg from Cycle Hack. This is Melbourne. I've never met any of these people before, but they're all my new friends and free hotels around the world. This is Tokyo, cycle hacking. This is Bilbao. I mean, Amsterdam just took the biscuit. Like, they had head mics. We had to rent a PA system. This is someone's living room in Chennai cycle hacking. And believe it or not, our faces have been on that television screen, which is very weird. This is Twin Cities in America. They're going for an ideation ride, cycling together with the local community about what they can improve. This is Sydney. This is Glasgow. And what I get excited about is the fact that we create space for people to come in and collaborate together and how they can bring different disciplines and skills and knowledge to try and transform cycling around them. And yes, we made a washing line famous. Everybody used the washing line, which was really exciting. So we had all these new ideas, from new signage, how to get up hills, to new ways of looking at campaigning. Someone even tried to hack the weather, which was really impressive. We had the Uber for helping people on bikes when they get a puncture, so people coming along to help them. We even Scotsified lots of signs in Scotland, Hochin for the next 100 yards, keep left, which is Kat over there, is a brilliant idea. If anyone's looking for Scotsifying services, that woman in the corner over there is awesome. And we had people working with Nextbike as well to help them understand from a citizen perspective how their bike rental scheme could be improved. This is my favourite. This is from Athens, and they found a problem that when you wear a bra, you get a lot of sweat around here, so they developed a way to stop sweat coming out of your bra at the bottom and prototyped it using sanitary towels. I don't know, they put it on the catalogue. And this was our propaganda. So what we did was create a hack pack and a toolkit and just love people as much as possible and be there as a supportive friend to help them make this happen, but allowed them to tailor it themselves. And we welcomed everyone, again, with open arms on every platform that we could to make them feel part of this. And they are part of this, because without them, we are nothing. And these are our allies. So Sustenance funded us £5,000 this year for the Glasgow hack. And making a relationship with them and getting them to believe in this is incredibly important, because it means we're not just the outsiders and the lone nuts at a weird club. We've now got Sustenance coming and running to us. And then we get other people running to us. We get Cycle Scotland, Nextbike, the bike station, lots of other people coming together. And what we facilitate is bridging a gap between design, innovation, people like MacLab who do 3D printing and laser cutting with the cycling world, and with other worlds as well, good food, local businesses, and bring them all together in one space to focus on the same issue. So they say that sticks and stones won't break your bones, but small font and some angry people online isn't going to hurt me. We get opposition as well, and we had like a lot of, if anyone follows me on Twitter as Rufflemuffin and saw me on Sunday night tweeting quite angrily, we got a few people giving us a bit of a hard time, and actually I really respect that, because it makes us be better at what we do, because critique can only make you stronger. So we're getting critiques now from people who've been part of the cycling industry for a really long time, saying what we're doing is just a distraction and it's a bit shit. And that's really good for us to hear, because I think if you're starting any revolution or any movement of any kind where you want to change stuff, you're going to get people who disagree with you. And it hurts a lot when you put a lot of time into it, but I cried last week, but I won't cry now. So my next lesson is that activism doesn't have to be boring, and that was one of the kind of general comments coming from some of the opposition is, we've been slaving away on campaigning for years in emails, and I was like, well, I respect that, and that's great, but we're going to do something a bit different. So someone last week put out these are people from Nuremberg. I don't know what they were on, but they were very happy people, and they sent out a video about a unicorn bike challenge last week, and everyone responded. This is Bergen in Norway, this is Manchester and Brussels, and I just loved that, because people were making change but having fun at the same time. And why can't activism be fun? I don't know, I think there's something in there. So lastly, I'm going to tell you about someone that called this a revolution in women's cycling. So one of the hacks from last year was called Penny in Your Pants, and we produced 31 hacks last year, and some of them were really amazing. The thing with the red arrow I thought might go on and be a bit famous. A penny and elastic band made us a little bit famous last year. So we came up with this idea. We were looking at women's marketing and getting a bit annoyed with the fact that it was always about pink lycra, and you must cycle in this pink lycra and you must wear pink and pink, pink, pink. And we thought, what if we could just allow us to wear dresses and skirts and cycle on a bike, but get rid of that problem, because not all of us use a kind of like women's bike frame, to try and close the skirt so we don't flash our pants. Again, it's not a problem that's going to save the world, but it's a problem that needs to be solved. So these guys came up with this.
I cycle every day, and I love wearing skirts. And I find it hard to get on my bike, to get off my bike, to cycle in the wind without exposing myself. So we had an idea. Penny in your pants. So, all you need is a penny and a rubber band. So that's all you need to make this quick and easy penny in your pants.
They made that video on an iPhone, and by 12 PM on the Saturday, because our cycle hack runs over the weekend, they'd shipped that website, brand, video done, and they all went on to have a nice lunch, have some beers, enjoy some more hacking. But a week later, we'd had already 10,000 hits in the video, and some tweets started appearing, going for all my bike babes, here's an easy solution to make your skirt bikeable. And then we started seeing our faces like wrapped up in these different places, all over the internet, on local blogs, and some pretty hefty media, including like the Telegraph and Huffington Post. And then we hit Cosmopolitan, and trust me, that's never a magazine I really wanted to be in. Like as a teenager growing up, this is not my goal. I'd rather be in like TechCrunch or Fast Company. But this was amazing because we'd solved a total trivial problem: how do you make women bike in their skirts? Except we managed to get cycling featured in a mainstream women's magazine by solving that problem. And it just went to show for me that two things: if you share an idea, if no one had shared this and we'd gone, that's really funny, look, you can go bike in your skirt, none of this would have happened. So you have to share and you have to give away. And solving small ideas can make a really massive impact. Then the community came, the lone nuts with the elastic band. Then the community came all online, sending us Instagram videos of them using penny in your pants, from Tokyo again, like Bilbao, all these different areas. We even had vintage penny in your pants, so how to do it in a long skirt, including an instructional video of how to do it. We even had our own memes, which I think if you get memes, you're onto something, like you're doing something right. And then they put me on national television in front of 360 million people. So this is the BBC Worldwide. We mostly people that are on cruise ships watching it and stuff. But they put me on without any media training, and I couldn't even see the London screen, and I only had an earpiece, and they were just like, yeah, Sarah's going, and I said gust of wind, and I said panties on national television. So it was good fun. So in the end, we got 3.5 million hits on this one video, which is just, I mean, it's insanity. And we're immensely proud of it. We also found some really creepy people on the internet. The internet is a dark place. I think part of the fact is that we had some high-rising skirts on that was making it happen. But what we're doing now is we kind of left it at that and said, okay, that was really fun, great job. But because we got so much interest, we thought we could do something with this. And when we had the original conversation, we spoke to a woman who is a documentary filmmaker supporting the Afghanistan women's cycle team. And we thought we could do something with this. So we've designed a product. I introduced to you Penny Pants. It's now a live product that's being crowdfunded. It's a lifestyle choice. And we established Penny for Good, and it is about these women. This is Shannon Galpin on the left, who's endorsing the campaign, that will donate a percentage of the profits to this team to try and get them kit and bikes, because they don't get supported and funding, and that those women have way more barriers to cycling than just talking about a fucking skirt. Like, they really have a really hard time there. So we're trying to help those guys. So I'm going to try and whip through my last quick story, because I know I'm a little bit over time, but I wanted to finish with this, which is the designers of the future for me create these open platforms, and my job now is to facilitate people's imagination. And I really wanted to start a revolution in Scotland about democracy and about inverting that pyramid. So I could bang on about it in talks like this, but I actually thought, like, let's do something about it. Let's design an initiative that could make the change happen. So we created Dearest Scotland last year during the referendum. It'd been an idea we bounced around for about 3 years. And we thought the revolution was, the referendum was the right time to do it. So we thought we'd get people to write to the future of Scotland and remove even that barrier of saying, hey, come to a design session or come to a hack. Just write a letter to the future of Scotland. So we were waiting around to try and get funding for ages, and then I thought, hey, it's just a Microsoft Word document. Like, there's nothing easier than doing this. We just need to throw it up and put it online. So we created, again, our propaganda, our toolkits, to try and get people to start thinking about what future Scotland should look like to them. So we used like little different cards. We even asked people like, what isn't Scottish but you really wish it was, and people started writing in them, which I thought was great. And we hacked other people's events. We didn't try to put anything else on. We looked at the assets that are already existing and went to their events to get people to write these letters. And people sent them. And it was a total prototype, and we were those lone nuts going, let's get people to write this letter to Future Scotland. And nothing happened for about 3 months, but we just kept going, and we wouldn't give up, and then letters started arriving through our door, and also digitally online. And some of them are beautiful, and I swear they will make you cry, they will make you laugh, they will make you think, they might even change your opinion about different elements of Scotland. And we had letters from people as young as 5 to people from Italy and Australia, expats, all writing to Dearest Scotland. And the proudest moment of my personal career is receiving this, which was part to thank Kat Cochran, who's been working on this as well, is getting an invitation for a members' debate to be held in Scottish Parliament about the project. And unfortunately, we were in New York at the time, so we had to tether watching this in Starbucks in Times Square, if anyone's been there. Rubbish internet. But we watched this. Politicians came together and they dropped the partisan stuff and they talked from the heart, and they wrote their own letters, and they talked about their families, and they talked about their friends. And that was Greens, Tories, Labour, SNP, Liberal Democrats, there's one left now, but Liberal Democrats at the time. And everybody talked from the heart about a future Scotland without the politics. And how do we do it? We gave it all away. We gave everybody toolkits, presentations, posters. Everything could be downloaded and easily printed on a little inkjet printer for them to run it. And people set up their own stations. I mean, these are people in Inverness that we've never even met before that ran Dearest Scotland sessions on behalf of us with their community. And Kat got on the telly, which is amazing. I think we even got in the Daily Record, which I think is a coup. Nice tacky photograph and lovely headline, the right stuff. I wish my job was actually creating headlines, but it was amazing to just get this kind of press and publication of people talking about future Scotland. So we thought, what should we do with that? Well, why don't we capture this snapshot of history and put all the crowdsourced letters into a vision of Scotland into one book? And thankfully, the community that we had taken with us this whole time helped us crowdfund that at the start of this year. So now we're going to release a book called Dearest Scotland, which is not written by me, or not written by Kat, or not written by Lauren, who helped found it. It's written by people of Scotland and people of the world, which is exciting. And then shit like this happens. So then India were like, can we do it? Can we run it? So we gave it away to them. So we've now got Dearest India running. They have more letters than us, but I'm putting that down to the fact they have a larger population. And we have Dearest Edinburgh University, Dearest Providence, Dearest England, and other people coming in asking us to run this, because I think it speaks to the heart and it gets people thinking about their local place and their local community. And to kind of finish it all off, we got asked to curate an exhibition of the letters inside Scottish Parliament, and I can't think of anything better to bring people's visions right back into the heart of democracy, which is incredibly exciting. So when I wanted to start a revolution about democracy, I think we started it, but it's not finished yet. It's going to be in here. And finally, we've got lots of school packs going out to different high schools around Scotland. Can you imagine if every kid that came into school was asked to write a letter to the future of Scotland? When these guys from George Watson's did, we had 200 letters within an hour about the future of Scotland. So, I asked you at the start, what would you start a revolution about? The banks, the government, injustice, the police, health, energy, mobility, dementia, music, society, equal marriage, democracy, food, farming, architecture, manufacturing, consumerism, design. So for me, design is another non-violent method of starting a revolution or starting a movement. I'm a big fan of this guy, Buckminster Fuller. He says, we're called to be architects of the future, not its victims. This quote speaks totally directly to me, because my revolution, the thing that I want to really start a revolution about, is people. It's people to have the confidence to stand up and say the system doesn't work and we can change it with our own hands. That's what matters to me. So the revolution today starts with you. What will you start a revolution about?
That was amazing. I'm kind of speechless. I should turn this on. Does anyone have any questions for Sarah? Any tools to start your own revolution? From the audience. I have a question. What's your next revolution? What's the next?
A holiday, I think. Next revolution. I think I can just stick with what we've got just now. I mean, honestly speaking, I love doing Snook at the moment. The company's growing. I'd like to try and revolutionise that company so it's more open and I can be hired by my own company to be like a creative director rather than running that, so I can go off and do other stuff, because I think my best asset, and I've realised this over the last 7 years, is not in continuing stuff, is in starting stuff, but finding the right people to keep continuing things. So my next revolution is figuring out how the hell I make all that happen and go forward.
That's astounding. I mean, the idea of I don't know, like sort of constructing a framework and handing it out, and basically just like laying out a red carpet from where people are to where some meaningful change can be. That's genius. I've never thought that. That's really, I'm blown away by it. I think that's really clever.
Thanks, Kieran. I know Kieran, so he's to be nice.
So I don't have a question, I'm just like, dude.
Thanks.
So my question is, what's your toughest lesson where you poured your heart and soul into this and other things? In the toughest thing?
Just be brave and don't take everything to heart. So I made a bit of a joke about the opposition stuff, but like I did get, Kat will tell you, I got quite upset last Sunday after running this whole thing, staying up for weeks and nights, putting my own money and time into it, and then somebody who doesn't really have the facts has, you know, critiques you in an online open space. And she had some very valid points and I listened to them, but I told her factually she is wrong. But I respect your opinion, and she just kept going, and I started ignoring the amazing stuff that was going on around me. People were having beers, pizza at the end. This is amazing, we loved it, it was great, thanks so much. And I was sitting with my phone going, fuck you. And I learned that last Sunday, is to just go, do you know what, I'm going to tell you the facts, fuck you, I'm going to put my phone down and get on with what is really awesome and happening around me. So I think you just have to be brave and let go, like, your kind of hang-ups about what other people might think, but respect them as well because they've got an opinion. So
I think if you've got 10 nice or 10 things, 10 people saying stuff, 9 of them say something great, 1 of them says something annoying, you're going to focus on one annoying thing. Where do you see design in art? Do you go into classes with, like, you hang out with artists, I suspect. So where's the space between art and design, and how is that filled? Because some of the stuff you're doing is quite arty, you know, it's quite conceptual and obviously quite political, and I think amazing as well. So where's that space for you?
So I've probably people that have written way better theses on the answers to that question than I could answer, but I think, so I used to live with a lot of, I had this amazing household as a student, so I had like an architect, an artist, Viscom, had a photographer, I had this weird sculpture person that was just a bit weird, didn't really come out of the room, but they made really cool stuff, and myself. And I was actually maybe the most practical of them all, but we all had like 1 or 2 common attributes as individuals, is that we weren't afraid to start with a blank canvas. And I think so I'm not sure about the gap, but I know more about the bridging of it. So that ability to just go, I can create something out of what's in here around what someone says, is an ability that, given a lot of my work is actually in the public sector and with government, when I worked in SDS, this is no disrespect to them, it's part of life. I was doing journey mapping around our educational services, and I said, right, I need you to draw out what that looks like, so let's comic strip it so we can understand it. And everyone put their hand up and said, I can't draw. Yeah. And it was a fear. There was even someone got really nervous, and I get that in my work all the time, is that we've actually taken on more of a coaching role to get people to be confident with that ability. So I think that the bridge for me is being able to invent the future, whether it's through a form of art, sculpture, architecture, product design, is that's what we have in common. And we should be applying it for the common good. That's it. Good question.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi Sarah, I'm a university lecturer and I worry about people doing courses where they think, why am I doing this? As you perhaps thought yourself, so have you got any tips? What can I do?
To make them feel connected to it, and it's really hard, because I was actually in Amsterdam running a cycle hack for students the other day, and it was actually a bit of a culture shock, because I said to the lady who runs the course, you know, what are the students like? Are they switched on? Are they excited? You know, because I'm going to come in and be like this, and look, we're going to go mental in Amsterdam and hack stuff. And she was like, I'm just going to warn you, they're all going to be like this. And they were. And I was really shocked actually, because I hadn't done teaching an environment with that age category about 1920 for a while. And quite a few of them didn't listen to me, quite a few of them were quite rude. Until I called them out, and I just said, if you don't want to be here, why don't you leave? I know it seems a bit harsh, but I told her I'd do this. And they were suddenly put in the spot. and they were moaning, and I said, why are you moaning? What are you not enjoying? I'm not enjoying this. And then I said, well, but you're gonna do something that's gonna be useful to you later. So I think, and then they were like, oh, but I just feel like I'm doing this thing and it doesn't make any sense. I was like, yeah, but that connects to what do you want to be when you grow up? You know, like when you're 24, 25, or nobody knows what we're all grown up, we don't know what we're doing. But what do you want to be when you roughly hit like stereotype adult? She's like, oh, you know, like I'd like to do this form of design and things. I was like, well, what you're doing right now connects to that. And she's like, oh, yeah, I didn't quite connect it. So I think helping students, and this is as young as 3 years old, you know, nursery, connect what they're learning, not with what they want to be, but what happens in society is really important, so they can see the connection. So as many live projects, live clients, live experiences. And I think the second thing is, and I've learned this from Lauren, my business partner with Snook, who left Snook to go to Hyper Island, which is like this really cool creative course. They really focus on culture. So as long as they're enjoying themselves together as a cohort, as a group, a bit like a design studio does, and you work and you support that, I think that's something you can get people excited about learning again, because they just want to be there. And I know like Alex did the course, a few others from here maybe did the same courses we did at art school, and it was, I mean, the camaraderie amongst your group. There were some splinter groups that happens in a movement, but there was a camaraderie of people, and we always genuinely wanted to be there, you know, to enjoy the course. I think that's really important.
And we're still there for each other, like years down the line, all the cohorts. It's a bit of a movement in itself.
Yeah, definitely. I went to like where I went to Sydney, and I was in this design studio visiting a friend, and this guy with a Scottish accent, you know, Scots were always like, is that a Scottish accent? And I was like, who are you? And he said, oh, I used to study at GSA. I'm like, what course? It's like product design. And I'm just like, how do you get across the world and you meet people as part of that kind of cohort? So yeah.
That's all we have time for.